Hey, everybody. It's a new week, and of all things, this is episode 6 of At Your Own Risk. And I will say I have been very busy this week as I get ready for the first race of the season, the 2025 off road racing season, and that will be the Unlimited Parker 400 in Parker, Arizona, this coming Saturday. Oh, man. What is it? January 18th. Oh, I should know these things, right? It's like I'm racing it. You would think I would at least know what day it is, but I've been like super busy just trying to get everything ready for this race. I'm really appreciative of just getting the opportunity to go out there and race in a Brenthel spec trophy truck with David Ziegler. It's going to be the number 216 at Parker on Saturday, and I'm just looking forward to a great race, and hoping that I'm ready to do what I need to do. One of the cool things is, this week I've acquired a new to me Lowrance HDS 12 live unit, and doing a lot of work on it. Just refreshing as far as what to expect on the course, and just the things that I know from experience before that just come to my mind of some of the sections that I got to worry about. But one of the things I want to do is obviously is just go over some of the basic. I've had a lot of people basically ask me, as I get ready for a race, or even just when I started, what were some of the things that I was looking at to do as I started to get with like new race teams and stuff like that. And I think one of the first things was obviously your safety equipment. Always make sure everything's up to date. Your helmet, yeah, make sure you're wearing a Hans device. A nice race suit, whether it's a Sparkle, an Impact. What other brands? I mean, there's many brands out there that can keep you safe as well. So you have your pick of what you can get out there, and definitely do some research on it. I know when I first started, I think I was looking at a couple race suits from overseas, and as I started to do some digging, online, come to find out the material just wasn't up to par. They would say they were safety rated, and that wouldn't be the case. So just do some work on your what you do get when it comes to a race suit. Make sure you're protected and you're safe. So again, shoes, obviously, gloves, and everything else that comes with it. If you need a baklava to go underneath your helmet, and one of the things I will say also too, from experience, when it comes to the hearing, some helmets will come in, with cups inside where you can hear. And from experience, I will let you know if you're looking whether you should do earbuds, molded earbuds that you can get from the ones I've gotten is from PCI Race Radios, and get those sent out and custom molded. Um, the reason I say about the custom molded ones is when I was racing in a trophy light one time, the exhaust on those trucks were on the navigator side, the co-pilot side, and we had one blow out one time, and I think I must have gone probably more than half a race with a blown muffler on my side, on my right ear. And when I was done with that race, I think my ears were ringing for probably a solid 2 to 3 weeks, man, straight. And I was very concerned about it. I thought maybe I might even lose my hearing on my right side, just because the ringing was so bad. And I was not I get, what did I know back then? I figured that as long as I had a helmet on with muffed, ears, I would be fine. But that was not the case. I will tell you that was a horrible experience. I wouldn't want anybody to go through that. So when you're thinking about as far as ear protection, I would highly recommend earbuds. Some people might say, they feel uncomfortable. They don't like them. But again, I've gotten the molded ones, and all I've done to get the molds, I know you can get those the molding as well from PCI. There's a kit that you can buy to send for it. But all I did was actually go to my local ear specialist and asked them to if they could make molds, and they did. I think it was 30-40 bucks, and they made me the molds. And then I just bought those through PCI and online, and then they told me to, hey, just send us your molds, and that was it. So they took care of the rest, and then once they were done, they were back to me. But I will say on that subject, if you can and you feel comfortable, get some ear molded, you know, uh, to be able to listen to, and just for safety, because if something does happen, maybe you're not. But I just think that your hearing is very important. So keep that in mind, that you can obviously just wear the helmet, but I would highly recommend you know some molded earpieces inside your ear. And the other thing too is you can actually hear your. I've come from the many years that I just wore cups to the molded earpieces. You can hear your driver much clearer when you have those in your ear as well. So there is an advantage to. I think there's an advantage as far as when you're a navigator, because you can hear much better. But then again, that's just preference. I'm sure some people probably don't like them and they just feel uncomfortable. So that's just my opinion on that. But when it comes to that, obviously be ready with your gear. The other thing I would say, probably as you get ready to go to with any team, is to find out, again, where everything is for as far as equipment that you might need. The other thing too is, if you're going in a long race, from point to point, always be thinking of whether you need water or you need some snacks or you need food. I know with the Parker 400 coming up, the Unlimited Parker 400 race, in that one, it's kind of like a loop course. So it's not that hard to kind of find your way to some kind of civilization. There are some spots that are pretty far out there, but still, I think if you know and you've done some of the work of where you need to be going, you should be able to find where you need to go and where you need to be at, and things like that, just for safety purpose. So, but that one, I mean, obviously, always carry some snacks, carry some water. But if you are going on a farther, like I said, a point to point race where it's not a looped course, definitely do some work on what you think you might need to be having with you. If you need a blanket, if you need something to start a fire with, if you're out in the middle of nowhere. So there are things in that aspect that I would think of. I know before, I've gotten just granola bar snacks, beef jerky, basic things. I've always had water, either a Camelback, or even taped water bottles to the truck before. So there's a way to do that. The other thing is, as you get ready for a race, make sure that you know your terrain of where you're going, what course you're doing. The other thing is, if you're doing waiting for a race that you can't pre-run, obviously download the map. And one of the things I've done, if I've talked about it before, is get on Google Earth, lay down the course, and start looking at some of the terrain that's there, whether it looks, you know, and obviously just by looking at it on Google Earth is not going to give you everything, but it'll at least give you some a good idea of what you're looking for in that type of terrain. I know this Parker race that's coming up. It's been a loop race. I've ran it. Probably um, 11 of the maybe more, maybe 12 of the last 15 years, and most of the time it's pretty basic. It's kind of the same. Obviously, some of the terrain is going to change based on weather, rain, and things like that. But for the most part, I'm pretty fortunate that I know that course well. But the other thing I think you need to look at is just being ready, um, with what equipment you're going to be handled, whether it's a simple impact gun. If the impact gun has, three settings, one, two, three, the newer electrical impact guns have settings one, two, and three. I know I was talking to a very well-known racer, and he was telling me that the navigator that they gave him, for racing in Mexico, one, he got in the vehicle and he was dehydrated. So that's another thing to look at too, is make sure you're drinking plenty of fluids, eating right before a race, and just watching yourself. I know before, in a Parker race before that I raced in, there was another young kid that was going to co-pilot half of the race, and the night before we were having dinner and eating some burritos, and just some carne asada burritos there at camp. And man, this kid was just, just taking him down. And I mean, I went to him and said, "Hey, man, we're in a big race tomorrow. It's going to be a long race. So just be careful what you're eating. As far as you having to go to the restroom or anything else like that." But the kid didn't listen. He just kept eating. I mean, he was eating like it was going out of style. And I still remember he got in the truck early. It was back in the best in the desert days when we would start at 5, 6 in the morning in the dark. And so the kid got in the truck, and I think pretty at the start of the race, he got sick already, and he was actually already throwing up in his helmet, and that was just because he had gotten so much food. He did make one lap, and then I ended up getting in for the last two laps. And but again, you got to be careful. You got to watch what you're eating. You got to make sure you're hydrating, and it. But like I was saying with that other racer that I was talking to him at, actually, interesting enough, I was in Valley T, and we were having breakfast, and he says, "Yeah, the guy that jumped in with me was not was getting dehydrated at the start of the race, and then he started feeling nauseous, and he couldn't navigate very well because he was just sick. So they end up getting a flat tire, and this kid had not, or this guy, I don't know if it was a kid or a guy, but he had not looked at anything as far as like the impact gun they had given him, the breaker bar that was on the car, if it was the right one. So there was a lot of factors, unfortunately, with this one racer, that he said, one, the guy was dehydrated and was sick. They got a flat tire. He gets out. He puts the impact gun on the lug nuts, and he comes back and says, "Hey, this gun's not working. It's broken. It's not doesn't have enough torque." So he puts the gun back in the truck, gets the breaker bar. Come to find out, the breaker bar socket was too big, and it wouldn't fit where the lug nuts needed, went into the lug nut, and it was too round in diameter. It was too big, so it wouldn't go in, and they couldn't do anything with the breaker bar. They come figure out a way to take it off. He says, "We took it off, finally changed the tire." All this time thinking that the impact gun was no good. They pull into the pits, and the guy in the pit is like, grabs the gun, says, "Hey, yeah, this gun's not good. It doesn't have any torque." And the guy looks at it, and it's on one. And he says, "Yeah, because you need to have it on three so you can have some real torque to get these lug nuts off." So that's all it took, was that the guy did not have any idea how to use that impact that they had given him. So, there's little things that you need to make sure you're aware of before you get into the race. Obviously, where's your first aid kit? Where's your water? Where's your impact gun? What kind is it? Where is your breaker bar? Where is Sometimes you're going to need a bar for an alternator. If your belt goes bad, you're going to need that torque, that torsion bar to be able to um, uh, move the pulley, the idler pulley that has tension on it. You're going to need a bar to make sure you can put that in there. So you're going to have to know whether you need to do that, or maybe you have to loosen up the alternator. So there's little things that you're going to have to be aware of to make sure that you'd mitigate losing time in those places where you might need to fix something. Obviously, even the same thing goes if you're going to need a drive line. If there's uh, if there's a U joint where the U joint is, if it's on the extra drive line, there's a lot of things that you can definitely do. Obviously, I'm talking to bigger trucks. I know there's many vehicles out there, but always be looking for all those weird little things that might pop up that you might have to stop and think about, like for to just fix in any given moment. So definitely do that, and then definitely be hydrated. Watch what you eat, um, and just be ready as far as that you've done enough work um, in whatever map you're using, whether it's a Lowrance, whether it's Garmin, whether it's Lead Nav. There's so many systems out there. I know that, and sometimes you got to start learning to use one or the other more, depending on what vehicle you might get in. There might be a team out there that is running Lead Nav, and you're used to maybe a Garmin, or you're used to the Lowrance system. They're all going to be very different. So, you got to almost have to figure out a way to be able to play with somebody else's system. If you know somebody and you just want to get better, find out somebody that might be able to lend you that system so that you can, play with it. I know one of the things that for a while I was using the lead nav system because it had a lot of terrain on the maps. So one of the things I would do if I was racing, you know, a race in Las Vegas, and I would download the map onto Google Earth, and if there was a lot of mountain range, let's say you're going by a lake, and the mountain range is to the left side, and you can tell that the water is coming down into the lake from the left side, and you're heading straight up, and the mountain's on the left. You know that water is going to be coming from left to right, which is coming down into the lake. There's going to be a lot of cross washes there. So there's little things that you can do that I liked back when I first started. I was using Lead Nav for the 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 topographical for the mountain range and stuff like that, that I could see and help me kind of make a better judgment of where I was, what I should have expect as far as in the terrain. So that was just a personal preference of mine, and it would help me a lot in certain situations just because I was aware of kind of what was around me. So, but now one of the things I learned in using the lead nav from moving away from Lowrance for a while was that in the lead nav, and I don't know now because I've stopped using it. In lead nav, when you would get into very technical sections, like I'm gonna say Silver State, the Silver State 300 has a lot of tight little areas when you're going through the forest, and you really need to zoom in, very very close. One of the things I did not like was when I was using the lead nav, that you couldn't zoom in far enough to give you those really tight sections. Like I said, I don't know if that's changed now, but back then it was not an easy thing to look at the lead nav in a closer, tighter sections that I could with Lowrance in those tighter sections, that you could really zoom into, 25, 50 feet distance, and would just make it lot more valuable information to be able to give your driver than when it was so much high and those really tight sections just kind of went away. So a Garmin, I've only used a Garmin one time, and that was the 23 um, Baja 1000 when it was from south to north, and I just used it that once. I kind of just left it as it was once I got in the vehicle. I didn't mess with it a lot, but I mean, it was simple to use. I think back on that one, the only thing I didn't like was that it didn't have any range rings on it. I think I talked to somebody, and I guess now it does. So the one thing I will say about the Garmin, when I raced that Baja race, actually that was with Cook Off Road Racing, and that was a lot of fun with those guys. Um, the cool thing was, one thing I did like about the Garmin when I was navigating in that race. I still remember at mile like 6:30, there was a guy out there broken down, needed a battery jump, and we were in a Can-Am. In the Can-Ams, the batteries are pretty kind of hidden down, away. They're not easy to get to, and this poor guy needed a jump. And I remember at that race, it was pouring rain since we got in it at 4:30 in the afternoon, and it just kept raining. So by the time we got to this guy, I think it was like 6:30, 6:38, somewhere around there. He was out in the middle of nowhere in the dark, and he couldn't get to his team. And one of the cool things that I remember with the Garmin that was that our chase team had a Garmin with them as well, and it was really cool because on the Garmin itself, I remember I put the mile marker, the vehicle number, and I said they needed a jump, and mile marker 638, car, whatever it was, needs jump, uh, find team at pit, whatever it was, because they told me what pit it was. They're like, oh, they're at this pit. They're waiting up for us to get there. So that was really cool. I actually sent a message in the Garmin to our team that was at that pit that their team was at also, and I could remember at the finish line running into those guys and saying, "Hey, thank you, man. We really appreciate you sending that message." And so when it was cool because when we pulled into that pit where I knew those guys had told us their team was, I asked our guys, "Hey, did you guys get that message to his team that I sent on the Garmin?" And they said, "Yeah, dude, we actually sent it, and they're already out there, getting the guy running." So they got the guy up and running again, which was really cool because they knew exactly where he was at. And that was the cool thing about the Garmin in that situation, that I could, send a text to our team and then they could kind of relay it out. So that's a cool thing about the Garmin. I'm sure there's other features. I at the time, that's the one I remember about that one. So like I said, there's pros and cons to every system out there. You can use the Lowrance, you can use the Lead Nav, you can use um, the Garmin, and that's just going to come down sometimes to even what team you're racing with and what their preference is, and sometimes there's no getting around that. I know some of the guys have hardwired the a pad like an iPad where all they're doing is running lead nav, and that's what you're going to have to learn to navigate with. So or you can make the investment yourself and get yourself a Lowrance and start messing with it, and knowing that you're going to have to bring your own unit, so that you can run what you know how to use. So that's I think that's pretty much, when it comes to those systems. You'll have options. So again, I'm trying to think of what else I can give as far as information for somebody that's getting started. And again, the new race season is upon us, 2025, and I know I'm looking forward to getting out next weekend, and hopefully having a great story to share with everybody. I know that I've said that I'm going to, and I am trying, trust me, to get somebody else's story on here that is navigating it, and so that we can banter and share some good stories. I know I have one guy in mind already that I've talked to, and I just need to figure out a way to get him on here. And I've known him for many many years, back in the trophy light days, and he's probably one of the guys that I looked up to back then. And I've told it to him myself that made me realize that I needed to be a better navigator, just because back then in those, in the trophy light series, when everything was the same, really the navigator and the driver were, were making the team just different. So I know that thanks to him, I realized that I needed to get better. And so again, I'm just sharing all these things, hoping that you know I can share some of my experience, some of the information that I have. what you need to do just to become a better individual and an asset to your team. I know the other thing too that you can do is obviously, if being in a vehicle, I don't care what class you're in. I mean, it takes a toll on your body, and I think one of the things that if you do want to become a good asset, you take care of yourself, take care of your body. I'm going to say, I'm not the best eater. I could probably be a better eater, but I do, get up every morning and go run, 3 to 5 miles just to take care of myself, my body, my cardiovascular system, um, my breathing, everything else that you're gonna kind of need once you need to get out of a vehicle and do a tire change or do something. Your adrenaline gets you going, but you got to make sure that you're fit. You got to make sure that you can, get from one place to another if you needed to walk or. So the other thing is just, as far as them you having a well prepped vehicle is one thing. Are you well prepared to be in a vehicle to take a beating of some kind? And I think that's super important. I think that the more you take care of yourself, a greater asset you'll be to not just that team, but any team that might need you. So, um, those are the important things. The other thing is I don't take any vitamin supplements or anything like that. I just kind of do normal, drink water and take care of myself as best as I can. Like I said, I'm not going to say that I do the best job, but I do a job at it, and it helps me do what I do. And so those are the basic things. I think just safety equipment, vehicle preparedness of what you're looking for, where it's at, and then yourself, your body. Make sure you're ready for certain things. Equipment, obviously, that's on the vehicle. How does it work? Does it work? You might end up in an old school vehicle, like when I raced in a Nora, and all we got is the old style, high lift jack to lift the tires up or change the tire. So, and I don't think we even have an impact gun in that car. I think it's all it's just a breaker bar. So, you just got to be ready for anything that comes. Again, I'm looking forward to this coming week at the Unlimited Parker 400. I know we'll be out there starting Wednesday. We get to pre-run the course on Wednesday, and then Thursday is qualifying. So hopefully we have a good outcome in David Ziegler's truck, and then we go racing on Saturday, and hopefully I can be back here on Sunday with an awesome story to share with everyone. And I look forward to everybody that I'm going to meet out there. It's been a great week getting ready for it. And again, hopefully, if I'm sharing some good stuff, you're getting a little bit out of it or something out of it. I do appreciate everybody that listens, and I'm looking forward to next week when I can come back and share as much as I can from the Unlimited Parker 400 next week. So until then, have a great week.